on both of our minds today, I'm quite certain, as we sit here and record on Thursday afternoon, is that Wednesday night Toronto Maple Leafs Ottawa Senators game.
Battle of Ontario.
Yeah, kind of a skirmish of Ontario, right? It really, to me, neither one of them looked super impressive. Ottawa certainly looked better than Toronto did, full value for the victory, but man, some sloppy play from both teams. I'm curious what your sort of takeaway from that game was. By the time the good listener hears this on Friday, Ottawa will have played again against Vancouver, but this is still fresh in mind. Leafs and Sens on national TV on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, no, I think the big thing, I'll look at it from the Sens standpoint from right now, but just good on Claude Giroux. What a game from him, right? But, all week we've been talking about the comments from Brady Tkachuk about the fans booing him being upset, and frustrated with it. And, there was a lot of talk, it goes back to a couple weeks ago when Pierre Dorion was fired, right? That's kind of, and I think Michael Andlauer was asked, is it just one thing? And he says, yeah, I think DJ Smith is going to stay here as the head coach. And what's going to happen here moving forward, the players haven't quit on him. So, we're going to keep him in place. So I looked at that as a sense of, okay, well, they haven't quit on him, but they're still in a 3-game llosing skid. Yep. They went on to lose again and again. And it kind of, the booze came down. And I feel like once they made these comments about DJ Smith and the players not quitting on him, you put like a direct kind of target on
Spotlight,
DJ's on his back. And even if you want to argue, the players haven't quit on him, this is a results-oriented business. Like, they're still not winning. They're on a losing skid. They were at home for 5 games and they only won 1. It wasn't very good. Like, when you have that kind of situation, now you're off to Sweden and things are happening. Then you have a Battle of Ontario. Well, what happens? Well, Claude Giroux, the veteran, right? Captain in Philadelphia, he's an Ottawa kind of guy.
He made some comments on Tuesday as well after Brady. So it was important for him to step up, as you were pointing out there.
Yeah, and I think that he absolutely did, right? Yep. You look at that game early on, the first 2 periods, Korpisalo, had himself a game, right? For once, I don't want to say for once, but he's been struggling so far this year. But to kind of really cement himself as this guy, like, yeah, you know what? I signed a big deal in the offseason here. Like, I am the starting goaltender, right? Forsberg hasn't really played much, but, Korpisalo hasn't played very well either. So it's kind of a situation where they needed him to kind of go in there, win a game, steal a game. So I thought he played really good. The big save on Austin Matthews in the first period. Which
there was 2 of them there late in the first. The big one is Austin Matthews, right? He kind of danced, I guess it was Kleben, and then got right in on, and a huge save from Korpisalo. But not long before that, I think it was John Tavares that he robbed right in front of the net and just sort of held his ground there. And those were 2, I sort of felt like at the time it was 1-1. It was a reasonably evenly played period. I wouldn't say a well-played period, but an evenly played period.
Yeah.
But either one of those goes in, or heaven forbid both of them if you're a Sens fan, and it's a totally different game. So for him to stop Tavares and Matthews late in the first kind of held Ottawa in a spot there that they would be able to come out in the second and take over a little bit.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's kind of weird because, I think Joseph Woll was, he didn't have his best game.
No.
But he also did a lot to keep the Leafs in that game at times. So it's kind of a weird situation where I wouldn't fault him completely for the loss, but you look at the goals and just kind of small mistakes, right? Yeah. The first goal, kick it in the corner, but it goes underneath your pad and into the net. Yeah. A couple of other ones, playing the puck behind the net, what are you doing? Like, stay in the
terrible,
net. Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff like that, but also he made a lot of saves to keep the Leafs in the game for a while because, like you said, a very sloppy game. I also wanted more from it, right? Battle of Ontario, you've got guys, Max Domi, they signed him in the offseason. He really hasn't been doing much. Like, I feel like he's, since Robertson's been put on his line with Yarncroke, that line.
And they moved him into the middle. It's been a little better, right?
A little bit better, but I still want to see more from him, right? That edge. You haven't really seen any of that.
No.
You haven't really seen, like, Battle of Ontario, right? You want to see some fire, right, between these 2 teams.
Sure.
And I want to see a lot more than Reaves coming out for 2 minutes on the ice at the end of the game to try and get McEwen to fight.
Pathetic.
It was. And it's just like McEwen.
Parker Kelly, was he the second? Was that the other guy?
He was the first guy, I think, that he tried to get after, and Parker Kelly just went off the ice. McEwen went on. You just saw Reaves he could struggle to skate. Like,
McEwen quite early, he's gesturing at the scoreboard like, fuck off, I'm not fighting you now. It's 6-3.
Yeah, literally at the end of the period. Like, it's you're just kind of gooning in general. And
right.
That's, I think, the problem with the Leafs situation is when you watch that game, but even the majority of their games, like, I know they beat Tampa and came from behind, but they haven't been playing really good hockey at all. And you look at all of the situations that they've gone through in this offseason, right? The trail living coming in.
Yep.
I haven't really been a fan. Like, we were texting a lot lately, but I think all of the free agent acquisitions have been brutal. Like, they have not done anything to kind of show any of the money, whether it's Max Domi, Klingberg, Bertuzzi, and Reaves. But Bertuzzi especially, like, this is a guy that was apparently the most coveted free agent, in free agency.
I was excited they got him.
Yeah,
There's no commitment because it was just 1 year.
Yeah,
$5 million. Like, that guy's easily going to score. You thought he'd play probably with Matthews and Marner. In that scenario, you sort of envision him somewhere around 25 goals, 50, 55 points.
Yeah.
Easy win. That's no problem. And it's not working.
It just it's troublesome too, because it's like now he's on the line too with Nylander and Tavares, and those two are carrying him.
Yeah.
Like, Nylander scored a goal last night in the power play, so there's his point streak
continues.
Yeah, good for him. And it's crazy because you go back to the overtime game. It took him to keep that against Tampa to keep that streak going, which is good. Tavares has been, so-so, like, not great, not bad. I have no issues with the way Tavares has played the season so far. But you look at the games that they've won so far lately, and look at the Tampa game. Well, what was the line that got the team going? Like, it's Matthews, Marner, and Nice. Like, that line got them going again. And you look at the game last night. It's like Bertuzzi scores the goal, but it was more like Drake Batherson. What the hell were you doing on that faceoff? Like, he was just lazy on that play, and Bertuzzi was just
happening a lot.
Yeah,
like, he's not looking.
Yeah,
I've said it before on the show. I expected a big bounce back from that guy this year. It's not happening. It's
struggling
not yet, anyway.
Struggling a good bit for sure, and I think I just look at that. When I see Domi out there, and it's not terrible. I feel like he has a role. He could be a bottom six guy, and like you said, I think as a centerman. But I want to see more of the grittiness from him, because that's why you kind of brought him in. Bertuzzi, I feel like this guy is just a pace behind, and just looks like he has no idea how to play the system or something, because he just doesn't seem like a kind of possession player. And every time he's on the ice, he's just kind of looks like he's out for a public skate. It's just like he's paid out there to go kind of be this physical body that's good on the power play, put in front of the net, harder to play against. Like, maybe the playoffs, if the Leafs can make the playoffs, so you'll see more of him in a certain role. But just so far, it hasn't been very good. And Klingberg, they went out and signed him to be a puck moving defenseman, and I didn't know if they really needed one that badly, but the guy just absolutely struggles with the puck in his own end and just defending. It's been pretty bad. And the Leafs have had some serious injuries to the back end. Liljegren's a very unfortunate one too. But
Jake McCabe looks like he's just about ready to come back. So now he's not a huge stabilizer, but I can tell you, as before you arrived, they were Mark Masters from TSN was tweeting out the line combinations at Leaf practice today, and they have sent down Max Lajoie. They've called up Pontus Holmberg, so they are in a position to healthy scratch a forward if they want to. But the line combinations today were the exact same up front as they were on Wednesday night against Ottawa. But on the blue line, they have it looks like Klingberg will be the seventh defenseman. Yeah. And so McCabe they had back on the second pair with Giordano, which also wasn't ideal. Like, Giordano, he's 40 years old. He's the oldest skater in the league. He can't be playing second pair minutes.
He looks it when he's out there too. And I think he looked at last year.
Yeah.
And I like the guy. He seems like a great dude and all. But ever since they traded for him a couple of years back, I just haven't been a fan of what he's brought into the Leafs.
Yeah. And so that'll also leave on the third pair then like Lagesson and
Benoit.
Yeah. So those are the guys you're choosing right now ahead of John Klingberg. And you know what? They're not wrong to make that choice right now. And I wondered, because you saw in the press conference on Wednesday after that Leafs-Sens game, Keefe is exasperated, right? Like, he's had enough of this. But he's sort of in a tough spot, because all the guys that are playing the worst, as you've pointed out, are the new guys, the ones that your new boss, the new GM, just went out and got for you. And if you don't have his blessing to scratch them, you can't really do much, right? Because all of a sudden you're embarrassing your boss. We used to talk about this a little bit in that brief window where Kyle Dubas was GM and Babcock was still coach. Yeah. Babcock had no respect for Kyle Dubas and was openly showing him up and not playing his guys. And
benching Jason Spezza.
Right, all these sorts of moves that Dubas had just made, and he was just going, no, I'm not playing that guy. And so I don't think Keefe wants to create that situation. You just went out and spent $4.8 million on John Klingberg. Can I healthy scratch him? Well, it looks like today that's on the table, and they might be doing that. So we'll see. But to circle back to that game on Wednesday, the Ottawa Senators, I thought, came out, had that great third period to wrap it up. But there was still some question marks there too. Like, Stützle early on looked a little bit lost, and then he ends up having a 4-point game. So kind of he does fine, right? Giroux was great, as you pointed out. Josh Norris still looks kind of lost, like he's not quite sure what he's doing out there. I don't know if that's just if he's still banging the rust off from the injury and the time away. as we pointed out, Batherson, I don't know if it's laziness, like you pointed out on the one goal. It certainly was on the Bertuzzi goal, just not getting it done. But even in the offensive zone where he's supposed to be a bit of a stud, he doesn't look right. So Ottawa and Toronto, I tweeted out before that game, I said, these are two teams looking at each other going, man, these fucking guys are ripe for the picking, right?
Yeah.
Because they both look weak. And then you sit there and go, oh, they're looking at us the exact same way. Like both teams think the other team is the weak one. And it turned out Ottawa got the best of Toronto. Like I said, I didn't think Ottawa played great, but they played better than Toronto. They grabbed the 2 points. And it seems to have, and again, people aren't going to hear this till Friday. So if they've gotten beat up by Vancouver, maybe the mood has changed again. But here as we sit on Thursday, things have settled down a little bit, it seems like, around the fan base, right? A big win, national TV, over one of your big rivals, has calmed the fan base down a little bit. Even if it wasn't as beautiful as you'd want it to be, it got the job done, and everybody can kind of take a deep breath and go, okay, you're back in this, and things are feeling a little more comfortable.
Well, you bring up a good point there, because I feel like there were so many storylines around the team right now, the Ottawa Senators in general, right? Like you look at the game last night, how many times did you notice Brady Tkachuk?
Yeah, not one of his signature games,
No,
right?
And that's another guy too that had those serious comments this week, right?
Yep.
And was kind of criticized by it from a lot of people. Even like I said, even myself. Like I just don't talk about the fans, right? Like that's one thing you don't do. Like
hard battle to win, yeah.
But I'm not surprised he did.
Yep.
Like, this is the kind of guy he is. He's a passionate leader. That's who he is. Like, you see this guy chugging beers, watching his brother play in Calgary a couple years ago in the playoffs. Like, as this guy's in the NHL, this is just a passionate guy. He loves the game, and it obviously upsets him to hear the fans booing. And like he said, no one's quitting on the coach. It's not about quitting.
No.
But you guys aren't winning.
Right.
So whether you want to quit or not, it doesn't matter. You're losing, and this is 6 years without going to the playoffs. The slow starts have been amounting. So yes, it's hard to kind of bag on them when they have a big game against the Leafs.
Yeah, but as you pointed out, like, who's talking about that right now? It's one quiet game for on the radio, on Twitter, in the newspapers. There's enough nice story. Hey, you beat the Leafs. That's a good one. Hey, Stützle, 4-point night. That's a good story.
Yeah.
Hey, Claude Giroux steps up, does his thing. That's a good story. Like, there's enough good things that came out of that game for Sens fans that to me it's just put out the fire a little bit, at least for a day.
Yeah.
We'll see how things go moving forward.
Which is good and nice too for Sens fans, right? Because it's been very negative for the last few weeks. With the suspensions, with the Shane Pinto, but then Andlauer, then the Dorion stuff. Like, there's been a lot that's happened the last few weeks.
Yeah,
that's kind of more of the all right. Like, let's just kind of calm everything down a bit. A win, and that's the thing. Winning cures a lot of things.
100%.
And so when you have a game, and like you said, Claude Giroux is the one out there on the podium talking so much. He's the veteran leader. Not that Brady Tkachuk isn't the veteran leader, but this Claude Giroux's been through
around,
a lot.
yeah.
He's been through a lot. And Philadelphia is not I don't want to say that they're the easiest market to play in,
They're not.
or the hardest market to play in. But it's a very passionate
right
fan
there,
base.
yeah.
They're up there for sure as a very
Philly's an honorary original six team, right? Like that's a top end franchise. Been around a long time. Their fans don't put up with much.
No,
and they know what they're looking at.
Exactly. So this is a guy that knows a lot of it too. So, and like you said, Stützle is a guy that not very. It's funny because he hasn't been very flashy so far this season.
No.
But like you said, puts up a very big game where he puts up 4 points. He looks a bit shaky at times, but the guy has been producing. And for the Ottawa Senators and for the fans, like it is good to get the win against the Leafs too. Like it's a rival team. It wasn't, like I said, I kind of long are the days of the real Battle of Ontario, right? I make the joke when I say Battle of Ontario, but I feel like you need to have kind of that like a nastiness and like even like big body checks. Like none of that last night. Like it was very much a quiet. And more, it kind of felt stressful, right? Like both teams were stressed out, and you could tell that they haven't played very well. And like you said, they're both eyeing up. Like, we're not making any mistakes. We're not going to goon. We're not going to be goofy. We're not going to go out of our ways. We're just going to play a game.
And then they both went out and did mess up.
Yeah,
they did make the mistakes.
Yeah, they did at times, but it was more like nerves. Like I said,
I think so.
You didn't see, like I said, Bertuzzi or Tkachuk or any of these. Like Chychrun had a great game. I think I think he had a great game for Ottawa too on the back end, and he's done a good job so far this year, staying healthy but playing very strong, especially when the Ottawa Senators have lost a lot of guys on their back end as well. Yeah. They were hoping to get Zub back for last night, but and I'm pretty sure he's close. Hopefully tonight. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I think when you go into this game and you're expecting a lot more physicality, like let's get this rivalry going. It just feels like it wasn't a very good opportunity to set this game up, right? Like you want to kind of all right, Battle of Ontario. Let's go. We're gonna.
Yeah, you'd rather see these two teams both running at 100% and then smash into each other in a classic matchup, and instead it was like two people just sort of
two teams that aren't playing their best
feeling
hockey,
it
and
out
it really looked like it, and just kind of struggling to not make the biggest mistake. And I think Joseph Woll, like I said, he did a good job keeping the Leafs in it, but he also did a good job of kind of not having his best game either. But I still think Woll deserves to be the number one goaltender there. I feel like Sammy is. I don't know, man.
They got a back-to-back here on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
I guess. So it'll be hard to tell whether they've changed their minds on, because one of them's going to play each game, right? I would imagine you go with Samsonov Friday just to give Woll the extra day off. Like if one of them's got to play either way.
Yeah.
So Samsonov, I believe it's Calgary Friday, Vancouver Saturday. Woll probably gets Saturday, and then they're off to Sweden, and you'll be able to make your decisions from there. But they'll have some time to figure things out on the flight over to Stockholm.